Got it.
And of course, it's always this, hey, I can do that, but then can I? Hang on.
Okay, calling the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. And we need to have an approval of the agenda.
I recommend that we approve the agenda as presented.
A second.
second.
Oh, Paul seconds.
It's been moved and second. Are there any objections or questions? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. The
Amen.
ayes have it, motion carried. Okay, and then we have, what?
Well, we should probably draw everyone's attention to the determination to continue to hold meetings virtually and take 30 seconds to read it.
Okay,
Yeah, I was gonna say, and now we're bored.
all right. Moving on to public comment, 1 minute per speaker. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, please.
Lizzie?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lizzie Mormisato. I'm a board member and chair of the Outreach Committee. I would like to announce that on Sunday, December the 5th, we will be present at the Ciclavia event. And we will be located at the Crenshaw Hub on Crenshaw and Expo. So please, I encourage everyone to attend and visit us at we will have a booth, attend a table there. So please come visit. And also, if you could ride with us as a team, we will be meeting at the hub at 11 a.m. So please come ride with us. If you cannot ride for the entire route, just for as long as you can do so. And hopefully we will have informational materials. And I would also like to invite our committee chairs to prepare poster boards for our stakeholders to take a look at what we are doing as a neighborhood council. And that should be all. Thank you so much.
Any other public comments? No public comments? Okay, we have to do this according to the rules. Open it up until 7:10.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
There we go.
7:05 now, so I would, welcome our guest. Would we like to have our guest introduce themselves? I know some people here are interviewing for positions, but if you would just like to introduce yourself, that would be fine. Nuriel?
Nuriel, yeah, you got it. Thanks, Ms. Bear. Dolores, we first name basis. Is that what happened? We're neighbors, first name basis. Yeah, so it's really nice to meet you. And actually, my wife is on the chat too. Steph Muscat is my partner. But yeah, so really nice to meet you guys. Thank you guys for welcoming us here, and I'm already enjoying the good atmosphere you guys have. Everyone seems to get along pretty well.
It's early yet.
Uh-huh.
Sarah?
I'm sorry, did you say my name?
Yes.
Oh, hi.
You just want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, I'm Sarah Long Henry. I'm interviewing tonight.
Okay. And then we have, let's see, Steph Muscat.
Hi there. So I'm Nuriel's wife, and I am newer to the neighborhood, so I wanted to get to know what these meetings are like.
Okay. And then we have call-in user 1. Who's there?
Knock, knock, knock. User 1, you are being summoned.
I've seen this caller at many of our meetings.
User 1, you are
I think
being,
they just listen.
Do we need to remind them how to unmute? Maybe they don't remember how to unmute.
yes, what's the phone number thingy? Anybody know?
I don't know.
That caller?
Caller user is unmuted. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Now there's 2.
There's 2. Okay,
They cloned.
maybe they just don't want to talk.
Now there's caller 1 and caller 2. I
Right.
don't know who they are, but there's 1 and 2.
Okay, Lizzie, where is a tent going to be set up for UNNC for the Ciclavia?
At the Crenshaw Hub, which is located on Crenshaw
An
And-
exposition.
Expo. So that is one of the end hubs for the whole route. So you can either start or end your route there.
What time do the volunteers for the tent have to be there?
So I sent an email asking for 2-hour shifts, 9 to 11, 11 to 1, and 1 to 3. So if you would please sign up for one of those 3 shifts, we would be very grateful. We can use everybody's help to greet the riders and our stakeholders.
Lizzie, do you have the
Yes.
tent? Do you need me to pick up the tent?
No, they will be taking care of that. We are very lucky to have a lot of support from Ciclavia. They will be providing the tent, 2 tables, and 4 chairs. And
Sweet.
I have the tablecloths, so we
Okay.
should be good. Yes,
All right.
we just need to hold our materials there. Mhm.
Thank
Okay.
you, Lizzie. Laura, you have your hand up?
Yes, at the Ciclavia event that was in Arlington Heights and Harvard Heights a couple of years ago, where we also had they set up the table and tents, but they did tell us that we had to be fully set up by 9 o'clock. So we couldn't be starting our setup at that point. So Lizzie has asked for volunteers to person the tables, right?
Good
And we're also
enough,
reaching out to other organizations that we're sharing space. But I'm sure Lizzie and I and whoever's setting up need help dragging stuff out a little earlier than that. So that's all.
All right,
yes.
thank you, Laura. And we have 2 new visitors to the board meeting. Corrine, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, Corrine. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Karine Alperich. Hi.
Okay, and we have Steve. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, Steve Wallace in Harvard Heights.
Okay. Oh, Corrine, where are you from?
Harvard Heights as well.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
So there's 9:10, and so we can now begin to go ahead with our regular agenda and our executive committee business. Item 4A, second request to have representative from the city attorney and Dunn, that's the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, or city clerk's office regarding the UNNC and city's liability regarding the CalGreen Works contract and options to move forward. And myself, Dolores Spears, as the presenter, and Greg Jackson to give an update on conversation with funding representative Shauna Dungo on the CalGreen contract, discussion and possible action. I would just like to say that was my request, and I just had some serious concerns with regards to this contract. And because of this item on the agenda, we had a meeting today with representatives from Dunn. And Laura, you want to begin on that?
Oh, yeah, but I apologize. I'm, very unfocused. I had my COVID booster and I'm raging headaches. So sorry. But yes, we met with the city clerk team, so several people from the city clerk's office and with our Dunn representative and Greg, Dolores and I. And it was supposed to be a 30-minute meeting and became an hour. And I will say that I don't really think we have a final resolution even at this point after an hour-long meeting, but I mean, my impression is we don't have a final resolution. So I'm just frustrated. So I don't even know what else to say at this point, Dolores. I felt it was very circular. We kept saying what we wanted and it kept circling.
That was the height of city red tape runaround. And we tried to get the representatives to give us a direct answer to our questions, and we couldn't quite get them to do that. Although they did explain to us, they gave us some options, but those options, in my opinion, we could not move forward on any of those options unless we had a legal opinion from the city attorney's office. And the city attorney representative was not present at the meeting. Melvin, he's the funding manager. What's his title?
Yeah, Greg, I think is this right? He's the manager of everyone else on the clerk's funding team. He's not the chief city clerk, but
No,
he's the head of that section, the neighborhood council funding, whoever team.
Right.
I'll just use the word team.
And so Melvin had indicated in the meeting that he had contacted the city attorney's office to appear and present at the meeting to address some of our concerns, but even they did not get a response from the city attorney's office. So we're kind of at a quandary right now as to what to do about this contract. You want to give some, you have comment? 1 second, Greg. Paul?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, maybe for the benefit of the new attendees today, I'm going to try to summarize sort of the context for what you're hearing. And basically, UNNC entered into a contract with the business, and we're trying to extricate ourselves from that contract without creating any liability for us or the city. And I won't go into more detail than that, but that's essentially what's happening here.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Laura and then Greg.
Yeah, well, in fact, they basically said, this is the height of circular thinking. They basically said, we didn't ask for a contract. If we had wanted a contract, we should have done a community improvement project. And Paul, you may remember that back in February, we did vote on this as a community improvement project, and then we're informed that we needed to do it as a nonprofit organization grant. But because it's a grant, we cannot enter into now a contract with you must do this, 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 and this, because it's a grant. And the only semi good news that came out of this is we have more time to fool around with this. That's not really good news because I'm so tired of discussing it. But yeah, but we just have to resolve it no later than essentially April for our May meeting. But nobody wants to wait that long. Yeah, in other words, that the money, it does seem clear, maybe, because they wouldn't just write it down. It does seem sort of clear that we have a way to do an action that retains the project, but not this NPG, and reassign it to someone else, and thereby secure the funds, but it has to be done this year. And then, of course, on the liability thing, they've thrown that back into our arena. So I don't know, it just feels like the only thing we can do right this second is request a bunch of information, and that might come not to the governing board because that'd be a nightmare, but rather to the next executive, but that just puts us off another month. And so the word or phrase NPG is, oh my God, my brain is so gone. Nonprofit, neighborhood purpose grant. But what they were saying is that a neighborhood purpose grant once you spend the money, you have no ability to tell them, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. We've just given them the money. And yeah, so we didn't get, I don't know what Greg's impression is, but I walked away thinking, huh, still don't have 100% clear path. But part of my clarity is I think we once and for all have to tell Cal Greenworks, we need, you need to tell us this, and otherwise we're going to cancel. But I don't even know if we can say that, I don't know. I think Greg needs to tell us what he thinks.
Greg, you have input on this?
I do.
Want to share?
I do. On the legal aspect, we will not receive an answer from them. That is very clear and apparent. And if it doesn't seem to be a concern for them, then hopefully it will not be a concern for us, because the people that are our supervisors in this area don't have a concern about it. The second thing is that we have the ability to cancel the NPG with Cal Greenworks. And then we can, as Laura shared, we can start a new NPG with another organization to do the same work. So we will not lose the money. The issue of delaying any further, I am not in favor of delaying any further, because we had the conversation with the CEO about their financial status back in August. They weren't able to provide their financial status in August. And if they weren't able to provide information on the financial status in August, after several conversations, I don't think that that's going to change. So calling them to come before us, to me, is a unnecessary delay, where to me, it's in our best interest to find another vendor to do the services, so that we don't run out of time in this year. So
Yeah, it was clear from the project managers at Dunn that we have to do something with this money before the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to go back not into our fund, but back into the city's coffer. And we're trying not to give the money back to the city. But it's clear that they weren't prepared to give us an answer to the legality of our situation, nor was the city attorney's office, because to me they just took a walk on it, and to avoid our questions. And the other option, those two that Greg just mentioned, the other option, and Laura and I kind of just laughed about this, but it might very well be an option, was to go ahead and give them the money and see what happens.
Give it to them?
Yep.
Yes, I will. No, yes, no.
Because,
hands are up, but no.
So that's what's happening with the meeting that we had this morning. I'll go with Teresa and then Laura.
Thank you, Dolores. So if I understand correctly, there was no resolution on the liability.
Right.
And the second part is that we can cancel that contract through the proper BAC, procedures, and then establish it with someone else at the same time, and that way we'll be able to save the money.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
With the legal issue hovering.
Still looming. Yes.
Right. Laura.
Right. And part of the hovering legal issue is the head of California Greenworks telling the truth or not telling the truth, where he has already done outreach, has already contracted with another organization to do the watering, and where he has already, this we know is true, met with the tree inspectors and identified the right trees in the right spot. So he did do that work. So that's why not a good answer, but an answer, meaning it's not just up to us, it's the whole board. One answer is cross fingers, hope for the best, throw some good coins into a wishing well, and go ahead and fund the first year, which is all our money would ever do, so long as they've planted the trees before we transfer the money, and hope we can find that they do have the money for the other two. That's not a good answer. I'm just saying it would stop these endless conversations, that's for sure. And I didn't walk away with a clear answer in my gut as to whether we can separate the canceling of the BAC from a new BAC with a different vendor. I feel maybe like we're supposed to do that all in one motion, and we don't have, well, you're saying no, Greg, and I'm saying they didn't type anything up and say, here's what the motion needs to be. If they had done that, or if they do that for us, then I'm feeling more comfortable. I'm not feeling comfortable that we got a straight answer even on that. I don't know. My
And
hand
the-
is going down.
And the other issue that was mentioned, unless I misunderstood, was that we could not enter into a 3-year contract in the
Right.
first place.
That's,
That we
that's
could
correct,
only-
but that's,
we-
but,
we-
I'm sorry. But Dolores, that's normal. Everything we do is always for a year.
Right.
And again, the issue with this contract, the tree project, is that for the tree project to live, it needs to be for multiple years.
Right.
So even though we're only obligating a year, we still need to know that the contractor or the vendor or our partner can provide services
Right.
for multiple years, because that's the nature of the work.
Well, that's where the problem came in, because we don't know that with this current vendor.
Yes, that is where the problem came in, because.
Right. Okay, Lizzie?
Yes, so first of all, on behalf of the group that requested this grant in the first place,
Yes.
the 31st Street Quality of Life Committee, I would like to commend the executive committee for keeping this issue alive, and hopefully we will not lose the money, and hopefully we will get, with whoever vendor turns out to be, we will get our 25 trees planted and taken care of for the next 3 or 5 years in Jefferson Park. So that is ultimately what this grant was for. And so what on our side, from our committee, what should we be doing? We're kind of, I feel like we're just listening in, but is there anything that we could do?
Are you speaking of the 31st Street?
Yes, yes, our committee.
There's nothing that you can do right now. We just have to decide as a board how we're going to move forward with this.
Okay. All right.
Greg, thank you.
I do have a few other areas that I can do some detective work in. One is to talk to the city tree permit people to see if they've issued their permits.
Right.
And then yeah, I could do that.
Right.
And then I am in favor of us talking to Mike, and I'm more than willing to do that, since it's a money issue. Like, yo, buddy, can you share some information on your financial status and not just wait for another month? I'm really not in favor of us waiting another month and then another month. You know, I just want him to share what he has, and he can do that via email so that we can move forward. So is about okay with me investigating, asking those things?
Laura?
Yeah, no, I think the investigation can continue. I'm just concerned that I don't feel real comfortable tonight coming up with a really good motion that's perfect for the board at this point. So another possibility is just to schedule a oh, Greg, you'll love this, a budget committee meeting or a treasurer's committee meeting, just something between now and the board meeting with this being the main item, so that we don't have to wait another month, so that we could maybe craft that perfect motion for the board. You know, just
A special
something.
meeting like we did before? With
Or
just this
a
one item?
yeah, but a one-time meeting of a sort of a non-existent committee, the treasurers or the budget committee. I mean, the treasurer's allowed to call a meeting for money, I suppose. You know, or a special meeting of executive committee, either way, but you know, perhaps, wait, let me look at the calendar.
I will.
I don't know what well, Dolores, I don't know what your
Wait,
plans
one at
are.
a time, one at a time, please.
I mean, in other words, we have one meeting on Monday, November 22nd for Recreation and Parks, and then no other meetings scheduled for the month of November. Of course, that's partly because we have Thanksgiving, but maybe we could do, well, unfortunately, Hanukkah is Monday, the 29th. I don't know if executive committee, if any of us do Hanukkah. I don't. Just maybe do a special meeting with this as a sole topic. And between then and now and then, get a better idea of what we want to make for the motion to the board and put it on the governing board agenda for an action, but not have the motion on the governing board agenda because we'll miss that deadline to put the motion on the agenda.
For the governing board?
I'd like to hear from Paul and Teresa on that, please.
He called on you first, Paul.
I was spending all my time trying to unmute myself because my picture kept moving around the screen. I'm available. So, I mean, if we need to discuss this further in that time, I'm not going to be out of town.
Teresa?
I'm available to Dolores, but I don't know what we're going to find out, how much more information we're going to find out between now and then. Greg's going to make 2 phone calls to find out if the Urban Forest Division has issued a permit, and then he's going to talk to his contact to find out if the financial status of Cal Greenworks has changed. I mean, will that make that big of a difference on any decision we make?
Well, we're going to have to make some sort of a decision. We're not going to make a decision tonight, but
Okay.
we do have to come up with an action.
Right.
Okay, I'm available next week or on the 29th
Okay.
if we do executive.
Paul?
Yeah, so just as a refresher, has anyone actually reached out to Cal Greenworks and spoke with the owner or the point person to say, okay, what we intend to do and that we want to back out? And what was her response? Just
Yes.
You did?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What-
No, yes. Okay. Let me recap. Back in August, he called me asking for a letter of support. Then he let it slip out that they don't have money. I'm like, whoa, buddy. And so then the conversation was, you need to show us that you have money to do this. And then from that, he showed us some things which, in my opinion, wasn't sufficient to show that they're financially solid. And so with that, I said to this board that my recommendation is that we cancel this NPG because they don't seem to be solid. Then after that, so I told him that would be my recommendation to the board. But then after that, then he started going to other people to get the same thing, because daddy didn't give him the right answer. So then he started going to mommy and cousins, because that was, he didn't get the answer that he wanted. So I think, in my opinion, just to be clear, I am of the opinion that we have enough evidence to cancel this, and delaying it is not good. And in my mind, I do have both proposals for the new BAC that I could put before you. And really, I could send that to you tomorrow, because to me, it's pretty clear in my mind what we need to do. So I'm
Laura?
willing to go to another meeting. You know, I hate that.
Yeah, I know you do, Greg.
I hate that.
Well,
but
I'm
'cause I have-
so
I'm like,
glad
this
that
is
you
the answer.
have, I'm so glad you have clarity, and I don't know if I'm without clarity because I'm fuzzy brained, or if you're just so certain of your clarity that you didn't hear their lack of clarity today. But what
No.
I'm totally willing to do, because this would also help us, is take Greg's 2 different proposed BACs motions and specifically ask all the same people, but in email, but just me, saying, is this the language you all would approve to allow us to A, keep our money, and B, give it to someone else? Because that is my concern. I want to keep our money and give it to someone else for that project. And it begs the question of whether or not it could be funded for 3 years or 5 years, but at least, so Greg, if you have in your mind what you think is the correct 2 motions, I'm really happy to share it with all the powers, including our city attorney advice person, Dolores, and just say, these are the motions, we're considering for our December 2nd agenda. We may or may not also have a special executive committee meeting in between now and then, but we need to do something on December 2nd. I'm perfectly happy to do that.
I'll send that out tomorrow.
Okay, but we shouldn't take an action today other than to maybe
Understood.
ratify this plan, because we don't know what the right motion is quite yet.
Understood, Madam.
Right, so just to recap, for the action, you are going to propose a couple of motions and going to send it to Dunn and the city attorney, asking them if this is the correct way to go in the motion, right?
Yes, and in a way that would secure the funds and retain them at least through May. I mean, in other words, they're not going to be secured to the next fiscal year.
Okay, and then Greg
Is going to give
going-
me that,
gonna give you what?
those proposed
Greg.
motions. Greg is
Okay,
drafting.
Greg is gonna give you the proposed motions. He's going to check with the tree people to see if he's gotten permission, and he's also going to contact the point person at Cal Greenworks, whatever that guy's name is. I keep forgetting, Mike. Right, although I don't think you're gonna get a straight answer, but
I
that's
know.
what we're going to do.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, that's what our action is going to be, okay?
I have 4 things to do. Yes.
All right, okay.
1, 2, 3.
So any other discussion on item A?
Nope.
No, let's move on to B, and that's to interview candidates for board member positions, discussion and action. Laura, you want to take this?
Sure. Well, we have 3 candidates here with us tonight. 2 have applied for the single Harvard Heights seat, and 1 has applied for the area rep. I recognize it's the pleasure of the board, because anyone who qualifies for the area 2 residential rep seat would also qualify for at-large, but the 2 who applied for the area rep did not ask for the at-large. So how do you want me to do this? Do you want me to share the screen with the 3 applications, or since I put it in the packet and emailed them out, has everybody read the applications? Everybody meaning our officers. So given that everyone's read them, what I'd like to propose is that we just interview all 3. Sarah's applying for the at-large, Karina, sorry, and Nuriel are applying for the area 2 residential rep, Harvard Heights and West Adams Heights / Sugar Hill. So what we would normally do is give each person 3 or 4 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we one at a time, and then we would ask anyone who has any further questions, then we move on to the next person. So if that's the pleasure, we can do it that way. Okay, and Dolores, in your opinion, which person, where do we start, at large or the area 2?
Why don't we start with the at-large? Is that just the one person?
Correct.
Let's just do the at-large.
Okay, so that would be Sarah, and we would ask Sarah to unmute herself. And I know you did a brief introduction at, back in the beginning of this meeting saying hello, but could you introduce
Yeah,
yourself
sorry, I
more
wasn't
in
sure.
this, but more in this context and
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. I'm Sarah Long Henry. I live in Jefferson Park. I'm interested in the seat. What all do you want to know right now? I'm sorry.
Well, why you're interested, how long you've lived in the
Okay.
community, what have you
Sure.
done?
Sure.
Some of the same stuff you may
Okay.
have addressed in your application.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have lived here almost 6 years. We have lived here in LA for 11. I'm interested in the seat partly because I saw actually people like Lizzie in my neighborhood working really hard on projects a few years ago. There were a couple things that came up in my immediate neighborhood that I was involved in trying to figure out. And then because I didn't know much about the way the neighborhood council worked or various things worked in the neighborhood, I very quickly learned all about that from people like Lizzie. And Sandra Pruitt lives in the neighborhood. And so just knowing that, oh, that's great. There are people doing things like this. Fast forward to now, there's been sort of more time in my schedule to do something like this. And when the opening popped up, I thought it would be interesting to participate and see how I can serve the neighborhood and community.
Okay. So board, fellow officers and others, do you have any questions for Sarah? Greg? Dolores, is it okay if I'm calling on people or do you want to call on people?
That's fine.
Greg?
Hi, Sarah. Sarah,
Hi. Yeah.
what projects would you like to work on? How would you like to make your community better?
I'm not really sure. That's sort of why I wanted to get involved at this level, because I figure there are probably already concepts in place, projects in place, and I'm willing to serve where I'm needed and can be used. And there are a lot of things that sound interesting, but I have no idea where I'm going to be best used, I guess. So.
Do you consider, may I follow up? Permission for follow-up
Sure.
question? Do you consider yourself like a outreach person, social person, technical person, financial person, clerical person? What are your gifts?
Communication, interpersonal skills. I'm not sure where that puts me as far as committee.
Are you a TikTok person?
What does that have to do?
I appreciate the flattery. I think I'm too old for TikTok.
Okay.
But that's okay. But yeah, no, and I put this in the application. In my other life, my work is with birthing families and children's literacy. So anything having to do with people, that's kind of where I like to work. Yeah.
Teresa. Oh, sorry.
Oh, am I going next?
Go ahead. You have your hand up.
Yeah. Okay. I have two questions, Sarah. One, I would like for you to tell us a little bit more about being a doula and how that whole thing works and how that's affected your life. And then the second question, which may be a little bit more difficult, can you talk to us about your opinion on gentrification?
Oh, okay. Okay, so doula work, I basically, I don't know if anybody's familiar with midwifery. I'm not a midwife. So doulas are basically labor assistants. So we're there providing moral support, emotional support, basic massage, things like that. Essentially, we're filling the role that sisters and mothers fill, but living in a place like LA where a lot of people are transplants, or even, actually several of my clients have been people from LA. They just feel like they would like someone in that role so that their family members aren't going to have to do that role. They can do other things. So that's sort of, I don't know if that answers your question, but as to what exactly, okay, all right. And gentrification, I briefly touched on this because I feel like it is such a loaded concept and term. I don't really, I feel like, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie. There was a movie a couple years ago called Blind Spotting. I knew about it because a friend of mine was a huge Daveed Diggs fan. And so anyway, I went to see a screening with her. Thought it was interesting. There was an interesting line in there. It's about Oakland in the midst of gentrification and some other things. And there was someone in the film who talked about, she had been in the neighborhood for a long time. and people were bemoaning gentrification. And she said, yeah, but you have to remember, like, now we have the Whole Foods, and now we have, she was sort of making light of, like, I don't want to leave my neighborhood now that it has the stuff that I wanted all along, I thought that was an interesting take, because so many times in LA, the conversation is very much gentrification is always a problem, always negative, but remembering that sometimes for long-term residents, there are positives that come, but I also realize there are a lot of negatives. Our family actually ended up here because we had lived on the west side, and the house we were renting ended up having to go for sale. And so we looked east, and this neighborhood is a lot like the neighborhood my husband and I both grew up in. And it's felt more like it made LA feel like home, finally. After living on the west side and really feeling like fish out of water for 5 years, coming here felt like being home. And so I really love that about this neighborhood. And I, again, quickly after moving here, realized, oh, we're part of the problem. And not knowing, like, we're still renters, but we're running a house here, and I don't have the solutions to any of the problems that gentrification brings, and I'm never going to run for public office, because as you can tell, I don't know how to answer a question, but but I really, it's a tough topic. I don't have the solution, because so many of us are just trying to get by, right?
Right. None of us do. And it wasn't a trick question, but I am curious about people's opinion about it. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Both
Yeah,
your
no
answers.
worries. No worries. Mhm.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah. You jokingly made the comment that you're not a politician. You don't have all the answers. But I would like to bring to your attention that this is a public office, and you will be in a public position. You have to abide by all of the rules and regulations that a city council person has to abide by. You got to go through ethics training, you got to go through funding training, anti-bias training, all the other trainings that they come up with. And you're a public figure. So you need to, I want you to keep in mind that even though this is advisory council to our city council person, and we're representative of our community, our stakeholders, you're not going to go out and campaign, well, unless you're running for re-election. But you're not a politician, but you're a city public figure, and you have to keep that in mind when you're on this board, because there are rules that we have to abide by.
Oh, and I hope I didn't give the impression. I definitely feel like the ethics of the position are not where I feel like I'm going to struggle. It's the not knowing necessarily how to answer, because I want to be truthful, and I obviously don't want to, I want to speak truth, but I also don't want to come across like I know everything, because I don't think that that's, going to solve problems. And forgive me if that's way off, but that's sort of my take as a layperson for now.
Well, let me say this. I'll tell you what I used to do on my job in my work life. I'm retired now. I don't know everything, and I don't know the answer to everything, but I will find out, and I'll get back to you and let you know, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay?
Yep. Research, good thing.
Laura.
Yeah, should we, again, should we move on? And I think we're just going to do all 3 interviews, right?
Right.
And then move to discussion.
Do we vote after each one, or just all together?
I think we can't this time, just because we have 3 people for 2 slots. I think we need to hear from all 3. But again, pleasure of the board.
Okay, but she's for outreach, and there's only one person, right?
Or at large.
I mean, not at large, I'm sorry. So
it's entirely, Dolores, you're the chair of this meeting. You can make the call.
Since it's only one candidate for that position, I would entertain a motion to move this candidate forward to the board for final decision.
Second that.
All in favor, raise your hand. Seeing none opposing, motion carried. Sarah, our next meeting will be on, what is it, December
2nd.
2nd at 7 o'clock. And you will go before the full board of 23 people or less, since we have some vacant positions. And the same thing applies, it's just more people asking you questions. And that will be the final decision. If you are approved at that meeting for the seat, you'll be sworn in at that meeting, and you will take your seat at that meeting. If not, we'll just say bye. I'm sorry, just joking.
It's all right. It's okay. A little hazing is fine.
Sorry, we've had a busy day.
It's not a problem. It's okay.
Okay,
No
so
worries.
Laura will go to the next candidates.
Yeah, Lizzie does have her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lizzie, go ahead.
Yes, before moving on to the to interview the other candidates, I just would like to say that I have known Sarah since we reopened our Leslie Shaw Park. And so I think Sarah knows, she has been involved in issues of public safety, and without revealing much, I think she can navigate that that part of that role of public safety. So that is something that I would like for the board to consider. And also as a fellow educator, also I think she could be a great addition in helping us doing maybe outreach or solve issues regarding education in our community. So thank you.
Lizzie. Laura?
Yeah. Okay, so we have 2 candidates for the Area 2 residential representative, and that's the area that's Harvard Heights and West Adams Heights, Sugar Hill. So basically the 10 freeway north to Pico between Normandy and Western. One is, I'm not going to pronounce this last name right. One is Nuriel. I'm not going to pronounce either last name right. Nuriel Maghavan and Karina Alprecht. And Dolores, how do we decide who goes first? Hi, Karina. Karina. Do we ladies first? Alphabetical, it comes out the same way. So should we hear from Karina first?
Yes, that's fine.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karine Elbridge. Nice to meet everybody. So a little bit about me. I've lived in Harvard Boulevard for all my life. I'm going to give my age, 51 years. And through these years, I have seen all the changes that has come about in our neighborhood. And why I have a particular interest now, actually it started with a concern that we experience in our neighborhood, which led me to seek association or Harvard Heights Association, another block meeting in which I got to meet the representative, Billy Green. And actually attending the meetings, it opened my eyes to all the resources and information that's happening in our neighborhood. From there on, we started, my sister and I started getting more involved. And from there on, I was really happy to actually get to know some of the police officers in the Olympic Station and actually get involved in some of the activities that at the time Councilman Herb Wesson was involved. And I felt like I wanted to get more involved in my community now that I have a little bit more flexible schedule in my work. And I thought that a great way would be is to actually join UNNCC. So that's more or less a little bit about me.
Thank you. Dolores, do you want us, since there's 2 people, do you want us to have Nuriel say something and then we go back and forth on questions, or do you want to do focused questions for the first candidate and then an introduction and focused questions for the second?
I think we should do the focus questions,
Okay.
and do the second candidate, and then we can always go back and forth after that.
All right. Okay. Does anyone have questions for Corinne? Greg?
Hi, Kareem.
Hi.
So my question is the same. What do you want to work on as you serve with this wonderful team?
Well, that's what's exciting about it. I'll get to be exposed to a variety of committees that you guys are partaking in our neighborhood. I do have a passion for homelessness. So I have heard that there is a homeless committee, just because, predominantly in our neighborhood, I see it every day and I just feel like I need to do something about it. And maybe spearhead some of the other neighbors that I know in the neighborhood to also get involved. But I'm really also open to any other committee that they need someone to get involved in, and just learn and contribute as best as I can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, Corinne, would you consider, not have you considered, one of our missing committees, as opposed to the ones that are meeting on Zoom? One of our long missing committees is public safety. And we've really sort of it would be a hard committee to chair or co-chair, because there's not just the Olympic police, but we have Wilshire and we have Southwest. But is it, are you so very interested in that topic that you might consider joining hands with somebody else, also not yet identified, and attempt to relaunch that committee? And you don't have to say yes. I mean, this is not a trick question, because it's a pretty daunting task that I'm describing.
Okay. Well, I'm open to it. And if also, I'm just thinking, does it work closely with the personnel liaisons from the local police departments as well?
Hey, Dolores, do you know the answer to that? We haven't had a public safety committee since I've been in leadership.
What was that? I'm sorry. What was the question?
What exactly does well, Steve Wallace is here. He might be able to tell us, because he was long ago in Colorado the chair. I mean, does the public safety committee liaison with all three the captains of all three departments? I don't really know the answer. I see Teresa has her hand up, and then I'm going to ask Steve if he can weigh in. But Teresa.
Thank you. No, I was just going to talk about the CPAP. We have the Community Police Advisory Board, and they have a meeting once on Monday.
Oh, that's right.
Something, yes. So that if you did go, that would certainly be a meeting that you might want to attend, because they give updates on crime and who the senior lead officer is, and
right.
I represent the avenues, and right now we don't have anybody. So, that would be one of the things, if you were to head up that committee, that would be beneficial to report back to the board on.
For public safety?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so you weren't specifically talking about Jefferson Park, because you're in Harvard Heights, right?
Correct.
Right. I don't know anything. I don't know about the public safety in Harvard Heights, but like Teresa said, we do participate in the CPAP. And in Jefferson Park, we were having monthly safety meetings, and the police, our senior lead officer, would come to those meetings to give a report. I don't know if they do that in Harvard Heights or not.
Well, from the Harvard Heights that I've attended the meeting, yes, we did have the senior lead officer, Daniel Chavez, and he got to meet him, and I would see him there. I haven't lately seen him through Zoom, but I did get to know him, and we do correspond with him whenever there's issues going on around the neighborhood.
Well, yeah,
I'm sure there are probably opportunities for others.
The department has been moving the officers around a lot here lately, transferring them to different positions, and plus the fact that a lot of them had been out with COVID. So
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so Paul has patiently been waiting with his hand up, and again, I was really seeking, hopefully someone who knows, an answer to when UNNC had a
Public Safety Committee,
Okay.
what did it do? But anyway, but Paul has his hand up or down?
Well, it was up. I took it down in anticipation of
Hi,
being
Paul.
done. Hi, nice to meet you. Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
So just real quick, you mentioned, homelessness was one of your concerns, and I'm just curious to hear like an idea or two of yours about what we could do to get homeless off the streets or help, take care of them and remove them as an issue in the city.
Well, that's such a heavy topic, and I know it continues to be a struggle with the city. I would just say that, I do visualize that someday they'll have the little something that they actually could follow in what they did in the valley was create spaces and create little, like small little hub kind of homes in which there are rules and they follow. But I happen to pass by there, and they say that they're having much success. What I heard was that in that particular area in the valley, they had inundated with homelessness and took over a park. But when they had a section actually near the park that was for all of them that used to camp at the park, moved there, that it eliminated a lot of the problems with homelessness. So I would be curious to know how the city is tackling that, and if there was any committees for me to get involved and maybe bring some of those ideas into, the UNC, just to start getting ideas what has happened here. Because sometimes I would remember seeing people in the community that would come by, and I used to there was this one woman on Washington Boulevard. She was very popular and people would stop by and help her, but she disappeared for a while. When I came back, she was fully clothed, removed her from the street. So they may have found some housing for her. She comes out once in a while, but then she's at the same time not all the time outside. So I guess it's just meeting the local neighbors that are living in the sidewalk. I don't know if it's possible because of also public concern. It may be tied in together, but I'm just thinking that that might be a situation in terms of resources that are in our area and tap into it, created with the city. It's just thinking right now. I don't know, something like that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there other questions for Corinne? Any? Should we move on to Nuriel? Is that okay, Dolores?
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
All right.
So same thing, introduce yourself and sort of background us.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, really nice to meet all of you guys. And so my name is Nuriel. I actually moved to this area much more recently. So moved here in July, but I was born and raised in Los Angeles and have a deep appreciation for the city, and glad to be living here. In my day job, I'm a neurologist. So I treat patients actually primarily with multiple sclerosis at Keck, and also at LA County USC Hospital, where I also have a clinic. So my primary, line of work is being a doctor, and in terms of other stuff that I'm into, focusing a lot on policy making, especially health policy, and I have a lot of experience sort of in the legislative field. So in a previous life, I actually worked as a legislative assistant in Sacramento in the state assembly. And so I have a background and understanding of how policy is developed and what it takes, and how communities actually can come together to be more effective stakeholders and share their opinions and move process forward. When we go and meet with the council members, I've sort of been that person on the other side of the table. The staff are there, and I know kind of what gets across and what doesn't. So that's sort of where I come from in terms of background, interests, and maybe skills. The main reason that I applied is that, from my perspective, when you live in a community, you have to get involved in it. I think if you live somewhere and you're just sort of watching what happens as a passive observer, you're really not doing the community a service, you're not doing yourself a service. That ignorance doesn't really help anybody. So actually Steve Wallace, who's on the call here, who's been a really great at introducing me to a lot of members of the community, let me know that this was becoming available, this vacancy, and it seemed like a really good fit, I think, in terms of my interest in getting involved in the community, meeting leaders and other folks like you guys. I mean, already this meeting has been really fun, and I've been learning interesting things. I mean, you know, a lot of the stuff you guys were talking about with the local group and the tree planting project, that's the kind of like nitty gritty stuff that I actually like. I mean, it sounds like at this point that's gotten repetitive and boring and everyone wants to be done with it. I hear you. But that's the kind of piece of thing I like to get involved with. These small community projects might be complicated. So anyway, those are, you know, my interests in applying here and in getting involved. I also was somewhat involved in some of the efforts last month to make sure that we stayed in Council District 10. Just hearing about it and getting really mad, given our history, I tried to jump in and share some of my perspectives in terms of what works to reach legislative leaders, and helped write a script and some stuff for our community in Harvard Heights to reach out to, you know, the ad hoc committee at the City Council. And so that also showed me that our community can really mobilize when it wants to, and that was pretty inspiring. So those have been my experiences so far. That's sort of my interests. Obviously, we'll talk about more. You guys have good questions, and excited to share more of my interests with you all.
Right. I have a question, but I want to be respectful. Does anybody else have questions first? Dolores?
Yes, I was just reading your application, and being a doctor, especially a neurologist, are you going to have time to participate in this? Right now, we're doing Zoom meetings, but then when we get to the point where it's safe to be active outside, our neighborhood council is pretty active in community events, and there's an expectation for board members to participate in those events. So you think you would have time with your job?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So nights and weekends, I'm good. So for stuff that's during the day, I'm going to be at work. I think like a lot of you guys. You know, certainly the Thursday night meetings, done easy. Subcommittee meetings, I think there's certain ones I'd want to get involved with too that I can make. And then, you know, the meetings, stuff in the community that I'm already seeing are stuff that I know I'm going to want to get involved with. Cyclavia, I'm excited about the homeless count in January. Like, I'm excited for all those things. So those are still doable with my schedule. This is something I would prioritize.
And second question, you just recently moved into the neighborhood?
Correct.
Months. So where did you hail from, and what was your community involvement in your other community?
Yeah. So previously, I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up on the West Side, but actually haven't lived here at least since I was 18. So prior to that, I was in residency. So that was when I had no time to do anything. So I was working 80 hours a week. I was in Northern California. So I was up at Stanford, and you know, my community involvement at that point was sort of working at the community clinics and working at the hospital, but didn't have a ton of time actually to do more. And so this is one of the exciting things about being done with residency, is you can actually become a normal adult human being who's involved in his community and gets to make friends and have a life. That's a valid question. I mean, the fact that I'm new to this community, I think, is something I'm really aware of. And, you know, I come at this with a lot of humility, because I think there's going to be a learning curve in terms of, you know, continuing to better understand the issues that are facing the community here. But that to me is exciting and interesting. I'm going to get to meet people. I'm going to get to learn stuff about what's going on here. And I know I'm not going to be coming in like acting like I'm the expert on everything here, because I think a lot of my job is going to be to listen and learn.
Well, I did see from your application that you jumped right in on the redistricting issue and was helping write script for your neighbors to make comments during the hearings, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of thing, again, that I think, given my interest, that's a kind of way I'd like to get involved.
Laura?
Yeah, or Greg. Should I go or should Greg? Okay, thank you. I had also read and had also a little email exchange with you, Nuriel, about your interest in upping our vaccination rates, and that you had some ideas on how perhaps we could increase. I mean, I don't know what role you would think a neighborhood council has, since I've sent out scores of emails about,
Yeah.
hey, you can get vaccinated. But if you could talk a little bit about what
Yeah.
you might think a neighborhood council could do to up our rates. And just for everybody, our UNNC is sort of in the middle of the pack for the city in terms of we're not really low and we're not really high in terms of vaccination. Okay, Muriel.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm glad that we had that exchange about it. And I'd like for our community to have a higher vaccination rate. There's pockets of UNNC that are lower than the LA City median. What can the neighborhood council do? So, one thing again, looking at our committee list and seeing what's there is like not seeing health. I mean, it's tied into so many other committees, but I do think that there's a way to actually think about a health committee as one that also builds relationships with a lot of the local community clinics and a lot of the local leaders in health professions in the area. So that is not just the docs and just the clinics, but actually includes even people like our doulas and therapists and everyone else in our committee that has a commitment to this. And I actually think that those relationships can be what help us get our vaccination rate up. So again, I'm ignorant to, let's say, what's been done so far. But if we're seeing that we're sending out emails and that's not necessarily pushing our limit, then what can we do in terms of getting pop-up vaccine clinics at some of the more busy intersections on the weekends? Like, how do we partner with our community clinics that actually, they might have an inside ear actually on what community events, what churches, what neighborhoods are actually, like, who are the community leaders that people need to hear from? So a lot of this is kind of on the groundwork. It's the kind of thing I like doing. And again, I come at this with humility because probably a lot of this has been done already. But, I think making the vaccine even more accessible and understanding, better understanding the data in our area too, which might require some conversations with the public health department. Like, if you take a cross section of our neighborhood, who are the populations that are actually not vaccinated? Is it mostly the old folks? Is it mostly the kids? Is it mostly white people? Like, who are the groups of people that we actually need to be targeting? And that can also help us a little bit. So again, I know that a lot of this stuff has probably already been done, but that seems to me like an area of interest. And like we talked about, Laura, too, the conversation about vaccination, we care most about obviously what's in our borders as a neighborhood council, but all the surrounding areas around us, we're tied to their fate also. And so making sure that we're building strong relationships with neighboring neighborhood councils, learning from them in terms of what they've done possibly too, making sure that actually our whole greater South LA area, East LA area are actually, getting their vaccination rates up. That's important to me.
Okay, thank you. Greg, at some point you had your hand up. I can't.
And my question is the same standard question. What do you want to work on? And
Yeah.
I've heard several things that you want to work on. So if you just want to
yeah, Greg, I'm a process-driven guy, so I like the standardized questions for every candidate. Actually, I think that there's merit in doing that way. At least when I put in my application, trying to think of the three things that get me most excited. So one of them, was this health-related stuff, thinking about COVID and vaccinations. And, I'm not sure what the expertise level is of the entire governing board in terms of professional knowledge and other stuff. But, thinking about vaccination healthcare as a doctor, I think is important. And, again, my patients have multiple sclerosis, so all of them are immune compromised. And so, thinking about things from an immunologic level and a risk perspective is something I'm doing on a daily basis. So that's one. Two is transportation. In general, I know there's a lot of elements and sides to that. I'm somebody who loves to bike, but this area just has not felt super safe in terms of biking, this Harvard Heights area in particular. And so thinking through how we can improve the bike safety in this area to me is really important. And that has a strong overlap too with traffic calming and making sure that we're not having, really drastic, risky driving on some of our longer streets and that our bike lanes are protected. And probably the third one, I know we've had discussion about this before, is homelessness. So not only, this is a real interest of mine just because, we see your neighbors that are unhoused, and that's just a painful experience for everybody and wanting to help and do more. But, a lot of my patients at LA County Hospital are homeless themselves. And so, understanding their stories and understanding a little bit more their needs, I think to me has informed a lot of my interest and approach towards homelessness. Like I've had, one of my patients lived in Echo Park and was sort of kicked out with the sweep that happened in the spring. And he lost all his medications and they shipped him off somewhere that he couldn't go because he had a dog. They wouldn't let him in anyway. I mean, it was like, I think it highlighted that there's certain approaches that you really need to take care on an individual level and make sure you're meeting the needs of somebody. You really want a long-term solution to someone's housing, you got to listen to them and see what their needs are, and that'll get them to housing in the long term. So I have a lot of interest in getting involved with the homelessness efforts that have already been going on, the neighborhood council and that subcommittee as well.
Thank you.
Laura, we're
We're out of time, but Teresa does have a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Dolores and Laura. I'm going to ask you the same question. Can you give us your opinion on gentrification?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think especially fair because I'm a newcomer here, and I think like I said, coming to this community, not just as neighborhood council, but to this community, I think you got to come in with a lot of humility, and I think that's a really key part in thinking about gentrification. So, at least the way I think about it, and again, it's a very packed, loaded topic, but I tend to think of gentrification as something that's going to happen, and it's a process. Cities and neighborhoods come and go and rise and fall, and so I think the key question is how do you take, new people moving into a community, new money moving into community or whatever, and how do you actually do that in a way that honors the community and listens to the community, and that it comes in with humility. I think the opposite choice, you can put up policies that keep a neighborhood exactly the way it is, but that's stagnant. That doesn't actually allow growth or benefits for the people who live there either. And you want to allow creativity and growth. So, I think for me, the keys with growth in a community are to allow that growth while respecting the heritage of the community, the folks that have put down roots there, the people who have been there, for 50, 60, 70 years. They're the folks who know the neighborhood and keep it safe. And so if you are a new person coming into a neighborhood, if you're a new business coming into a neighborhood, I think you have to do it with humility, with open ears. I think you can't just come in arrogantly and say, I'm going to build a, whatever giant, monstrosity, and it's going to be great, and it's going to have 2 Whole Foods inside. I think you're going to have to really listen to what people want. So to me, with, and I mentioned my wife is on the call, Steph, we've really thought about this intentionally moving here. How are we going to come here and still respect the community? And a really big part of that has been, making sure for one, we keep our business here, we keep it local. So if we're going to go grocery shopping, we're going to go buy something, we're going to buy a bike, we're going to buy it from the store on the corner. Like that's important to us too, because I think if you come here and all of your economic activity is still outside the community, you haven't done anything for folks here that have been here for a long time. And so I think that type of principle is really important when you think about gentrification on the larger scale, is making sure that it actually serves the community that's been there and that you're not seeking to change it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Dolores, I think the questions are done. How do we, so sorry, how do we proceed now?
I think that we need to entertain a motion to do something, but I just wanted to comment on piggyback on what you just said, Noriel, was that we have new restaurants and businesses that are coming into the neighborhood, and they've already appropriated our historic Jefferson Park, historic West Adams. They might be West Adams, but they're not historic West Adams. And some of us got our nose twisted in a joint because of it. At any rate, what would we like to do here? I think both of the candidates are great. I would entertain a motion to move both of them to the board and let the board decide, because this is kind of hard.
It is very hard. It's but then we'll need to schedule more than the usual time, and that's okay at the board, because we'll rerun these conversations essentially.
Was that the motion? Should I make the motion?
Lizzie has her hand up.
Yes, I just would like to say that we have 2 great candidates, but only 1 seat. And I don't think it's been mentioned here, but whoever gets the seat gets to work with us. But whoever does not get to a seat in the board is always welcome to participate in so many other ways. So please don't be discouraged because you did not get a seat at the table, because you will still get a seat at the table in a different way. So please.
In a committee.
So don't go away. Thank you.
And just to supplement that, our committee chairs and co-chairs need not be board members. And also just to supplement that, especially in COVID, we've really had a lot of turnover in the at-large representative seats. So, you know, we may well have another seat, you know, by December 2nd. I hope not, but we might. Anyway, Steve Wallace has his hand up.
Yeah, it's kind of painful that there's just one seat, but like Laura said, I think the odds are pretty good that maybe an at-large seat might open up sometime soon. But as far as considering the committees, the various committees that are on the neighborhood council, I would think, in my humble opinion, that more work can be done for the community on behalf of the community just by working through committees.
Right.
I think that being a committee chair especially can be more impactful than being one of the 23 board members on the neighborhood council. When I was in, Laura had asked earlier, as far as I was chair on the public safety committee for, gosh, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years or so. And it's what one makes of it. The time that I was the chair, it was very impactful for both the Southwest and for the Wilshire divisions. Olympic hadn't yet been created, but I got more satisfaction out of that position than I don't know how many years I was on the neighborhood council itself, but just to be on a committee, one can accomplish so much. So either of you, I would really encourage you to become more active in the neighborhood, the neighborhood council by being on a committee.
Thank you, Steve. So any more questions, comments? So Greg, you were going to make the motion?
I make a motion, yes, Madam Vice President, I make a motion that we move both candidates forward to the general board for consideration.
I second.
Thank you, Paul. Second. All right. Any no dissensions?
All in favor?
Questions,
Brain freeze. Okay.
discussion?
All in favor of the motion? Raise your hand. Okay. Ayes have it. Motion carried. Next item is to
Thank
what?
you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Okay.
candidates.
I'd like to say thank you very much, all three of you guys. We really appreciate it.
Oh, and feel free to stay on the meeting.
Well, you don't have to. I
You
wouldn't.
don't
Stay.
have
You
to.
don't
stay.
have to.
I wouldn't stay.
Oh, but they might like meetings. I'm
They
just
might
saying.
not. Let's not do that to them.
Okay, next item on the agenda.
Thanks for having
is,
us.
C, proposal for a university intern. Are you
Oh.
ready for that, Greg?
I am. Okay, so
Oh. Do I need to, are you sharing the screen?
yes, I will share screen. I will
Hang
share
on.
screen.
Once I make you a co-host. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okie dokie. So share screen. Which document do I want? Okay, so can anyone see this document? The CSUDH internship with UNNC. Okay, so this project is the ability for CSUN at Dominguez Hills to provide up to 16 to 18 internships to us. Each of them needs to provide about 15 hours of service as relates to government service. And so their proposal was for them to partner with us. And so what we talked about was to have different committees or different individuals, different board members, having 1 or 2 interns working with their committee or working with their area of work, and or developing different projects that they could work on. So for example, and I'll just use the example of the treasurer of the budget. I could have like 2 internships, review the mission and vision of UNC and review the policies, and then review how we're using the budget give them like this year's budget and a couple of years back and have them analyze it and then give us a report of, are we being consistent with implementing the budget based upon our mission and vision? Another example could be, they could join with the communication committee and then bring their expertise with that committee and then help them with various areas. Maybe even look at our area of outreach. But for us is to decide if we want to have these internships working with us, and then to bring this before the entire board, particularly the committees, and find out if anyone is willing to supervise, work with these internships, give them assignments, meet with them, talk with them. And of course, that would mean an obligation of additional time other than the regular meetings where we work with these interns. That's the overall gist of the proposal. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't have that many active committees. How are we going to work with 16 people?
Well, he was saying they have as many as 16, but we just take 2 at a time and say, like, for example, I can take 2 and work with 2. Like, for example, like we're working on the handbook. We could have some of them working with us on the handbook. So I'm not saying we're going to use all of them this year or this semester, but it's just something that I just feel like we should take advantage of, even if we just use 5 of them for now.
Okay. Laura?
Yeah, I actually have 2 questions.
Mhm.
And one is simply, Greg, would they be doing this for credit? And if yes, do we know if we're allowed to do that? And then in terms of, since they are poli-sci majors, right? Social work and poli-sci.
Mhm.
So maybe a really good thing would be to help them get engaged with the city council's council files and prepare and propose community impact statements.
So to the first part of
Yeah.
your question is that I know, I'm going by past experience. If someone wishes to do an internship program, it's like volunteer work. And so I don't see a thought or reason why there'd be any concern about them being able to do this with us, because they could do it with any public organization, it's part of their schoolwork. Then as far as if the CIS is, yes, as long as someone is willing to work with them on that. The issue for us is we need to say, yes, I will take 1 or 2 individuals to work with. So it's up to each. I can't say to Teresa, here's your 2, but I can say, okay, I will take 2. So everyone has to say, I'm willing to. If you want to work with them on CIS, that's great. Then you have 2 for CIS. So again, in my case, I would say 2 for treasurer. Then I would talk with Dolores about, maybe we could take some for the handbook. But then I have in my head other ways that they can be used. But I'm not going to supervise all of those. I will supervise at least 4 in the different areas that I'm working on.
Well, UNNC has sort of done stuff like this before, but it wasn't on administrative projects. It was working with young people who were placed into teams. So teams of 2, 3, or 4. And they were coming up with programs for traffic mitigation, for example. We had one project like that. We had a project with USC. I think I mentioned this the last time regarding the Benny Potter Park. And they had 3 different teams, and one team came up with the idea and researched the heck out of it to have the universally accessible playground and
Mhm.
another team came up with the idea for how to redo the basketball court and light it up so it could be a community benefit. And the third
Right.
group ended up with the exercise equipment, path in the side park. So, and they did that for class credit. So we were working with a professor who was able to give them that class credit. And in another year, it was many teams, but they divided up and we're kind of spread out among our 6 regions, if memory serves, to come up with proposed traffic mitigation projects. Now, these were engineering students. They were not poli-sci / social studies kind of students. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know that they'd want to do a deep dive into Robert's rules. I mean, in other words, but Sarah thought this was fine, right?
Yes, yes. And again, the issue is, yeah, this is recapping some of the things
Mhm.
we said earlier, but the major part for us is, will we provide supervision for them
Yeah.
and guidance for them?
Oh, I have to say, oh, go ahead.
I think that it sounds like a good plan, but it's contingent upon board members be willing to supervise, I
That's
think.
correct. That's correct.
So what do we want to do with this? We're going to send it to the board and discuss it with them?
Because there may be some board members, I mean, in other words, when I was engaged in those projects, my goodness, I was so much younger and not working the kind of work schedule I have now. Making more money, working less is the way of the life. So I was able to devote quite a bit of time, but there would be no way I could do that now. But we
Right.
might have some board members who could.
That might be interested. Yeah. Okay. So the action on this would be to send it to the board. I would entertain a motion to do that.
I second.
Who first did?
Well,
Is
Dolores
that
did, I
Greg?
think. I
I
thought Dolores
understood
just said,
Dolores
I
just
think Dolores
first
said
it.
it.
Yeah.
No, I entertain a motion, meaning somebody
Entertain.
would
I
make the
move.
motion.
I
Someone must,
move.
the chair entertains.
Very good. I
He's
move that
invited.
we move this discussion to the general board.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, item D, status of standing rules,
Yeah, my name is on this, I guess, because I asked a question about it.
right?
Um,
And
well,
make it quick.
yeah, of course. I tried to, you know me, I tried to. So yeah, I just wanted to, since we're working on the handbook, I believe we're in the position of saying the handbook is contingent on the standing rules. So I just wanted to find out, is there an update on the standing rules so that we can know what we can do with the handbook?
Yeah. Nancy did not reply to that email, but I did tentatively put it on the proposed December 2nd governing board agenda in the hopes that she'll have an answer that's
Okay.
positive, because we were halfway through approving it,
Okay.
right? So
I think so.
they'd be fine to do that on December 2nd if she's available, because you've seen her attendances every other month at this point.
Okay.
So we need to
Nice.
we need her to answer your question.
Okay. Good. D's done.
Okay, E, administrative funding request, print business cards not to exceed $500.
Madam,
What?
May I assist with this one, Madam Vice President?
Can I say why I put this on the agenda
Of course,
first?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we had the branding presentation from the communications committee. And I had this on the agenda before. And so we decided to put this, there was some discussion about whether we really needed business cards or not. And some were saying nobody uses them anymore. Some of us some other folks said, yes, we do use them still. And so we decided to put it into a committee with the communications, because we were going to get a new logo and the whole 9 yards. But after hearing the branding presentation, we don't know when that's going to happen. And I still want business cards. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. We can do like 100 only for those that want them. It doesn't have to be for the whole board unless the whole board wants them. I don't think that will happen, but that's why I put this on the agenda. Greg and then Laura.
To execute this, there's a few things that I suggest that we do when we go, assume that we approve this, and it is in the budget. We already have money in the budget for this. But when we bring it before the general board, in our next meeting, what I will do is just ask who in the meeting wants cards, and just let people raise their hands so I can just write down the name, and then send out the template. I can send the template out ahead of time so they can know what the cards will look like, and then allow them to send edits to it, like if they want to put their cell number, anything like that. So that's how we will execute it. And then once we have that and we vote on that, then I'll just go down to the local vendors and just ask them for prices on it, because we want to try to buy local. In the past, we used Vistaprint, but we want to try to support local businesses with this.
Thank you, Greg. Laura?
Yeah, we had sort of delegated this to the communications committee, but then they canceled first their October meeting and they have now canceled their November meeting. So I think we do just need to take it back. I would suggest, I haven't looked at a business card in a long time, but just to maybe keep it consistent with the starting of a new brand. If we could get Mickey to give us the exact color. I mean, it's a PMS color of that blue instead of, it's a dark blue. If we could do the type in the blue instead of black, then we have cards that would be at least consistent with the color, the new colors. It won't have this new logo, but it won't feel so, out there. But Greg, what I don't know is when you say template, is it a PDF or is it an actual design template? Because we can't print properly from a Microsoft Word or just a PDF that was generated in Microsoft Word. So I don't know what it is that I saw you sent it, but I don't know what its underlying program is. Will we be able to use it?
I would assume so. The other companies have.
Okay.
When we sent it to the, a point of clarification, when we sent it to the communication committee, we sent it to them for the new card. This action is, my understanding is that we're still using the current cards, not with any modifications in color or anything.
Well, I was
correct?
not suggesting major modifications, but the core question is, are these even, is what you have printable? That's all. And I don't know the answer.
Everything's
Meaning, are they
printable.
just sort of Microsoft? I mean, do we need to ask a designer to do something or not? And I think, I don't know the answer. I believe we used to have Linda Frost just do them, and it was sort of simple, but we don't have necessarily the underlying, what would we call a native file. But maybe we do. Maybe that's what you sent them. So it would be nice if Raheem at least let you know if it's a printing document that we could use.
I hear your questions, but I didn't have those problems. I just do it. I just go in and it's done. And I said, thank you, buddy.
Okay.
And they give me
right.
a bill and I pay them.
How about this? I'll ask him and let's, but we're going to move this item forward to the governing board for funding, right? Because we need to vote the specific funds to a specific printer. So if you would ask some printers the pricing, I will take care of asking the question about what do we need to do for the actual printer document. Is that okay?
Sure. Yes, kind of, sort of, yeah. But
Okay, what I'm trying to say is if you take the flyers that I might create that have the UNNC banner and we have a letter, that's a photocopy. We can print it as a photocopy, but it's not necessarily something we can do the kind of printing at a print house because they're looking for a different kind of file. Maybe, I just want to know if we have the right file or not. Files.
And
plural.
again, my thought was just, I was just gonna take the old card and just get them printed, just to get it done, you know, like,
But we have to put different people's names in them.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we talk offline about how we do it and move the technical
Sure.
how?
Sure.
But
Sure.
is $500, you know, is
If it-
$500 the right amount? Of course it is. It's what's on the agenda.
That's what we have.
All right, I would like to entertain a motion to move this forward to the board, governing board.
I make a motion that we spend $500 on purchasing cards for anyone that wants them,
This is not to exceed $500.
not to exceed $500.
Okay, can I get a second?
No, second.
All in favor? Motion carries.
We are doing good.
Right, I got my whip out. Item F, update on uploading Zoom meetings to YouTube. Teresa.
Thank you, Dolores. Well, I had planned to give you guys a demonstration, but I didn't upload any because on Sunday, we didn't have any internet. So I didn't want to use my personal hotspot to upload it. But I discussed this I met with Ann and Doug and discussed it with Raheem. We're going to start uploading the videos, the Zoom meeting videos we have. When you upload to YouTube, Doug did a trial while I was there, and you have to select an icon that describes that people will see when they go in to look through our YouTube page. Anne suggested that we just use the random picture that Google has. I think we're going to do that for all of the board meetings. All of the other committee meetings, Raheem is going to come up with a little snapshot, a thumbnail, which will reflect if it's environmental or communications or outreach or whatever the other meetings are. So when people go in, they'll see a little graphic of that meeting, but for all of the board meetings, they will be the random Zoom meeting photo, which is normally Laura and 3 or 4 other people in the picture. But I didn't upload any because I didn't have any internet on Sunday. So I'll save it for the next time.
Okay,
That's that day.
any questions, Laura?
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel like we decided we weren't doing committee meetings, but now are we? I'm okay with doing committee meetings, but I thought we had decided last month not to. I don't remember.
I don't remember it that way. I remember that we were going to upload all the meetings. Why not do all the meetings? Also, Ann and Doug said we had unlimited space on our YouTube page. So why not put all the meetings up?
I think all is fine. I maybe what the discussion was is that we can't pick and choose, either all or just governing board. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, my brain is toast. So.
All right, any other questions? Moving
Greg
on.
has his hand.
What?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know it.
Item G, update on live streaming Zoom meetings. Teresa?
Okay, if I could have hosting, please, so I can share my screen. Please.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, okay. So I've been discussing with Raheem, Raheem would like to stream our meetings live. I think it's a great idea. We can do, Laura suggested that streaming live is better than doing a webinar, which makes sense because if we do a webinar, people can't participate. So it's one thing if we stream live when we're in a conference room or CD10 or somewhere like that. It's another if we're going to stream live on Zoom, and it becomes a little more complicated. So I'm just explaining it, and then just asking for some feedback if we even think this is a viable option. So one of the great things about if we were able to do it is it makes it easy for our constituents to join a meeting. If we're streaming live on YouTube, they can pick up the link from Facebook or from Twitter or even from our website. It's unnecessary to get the Zoom app on your computer or the Zoom app on your phone to join meetings. It's fairly simple. For those who missed the meeting, if we stream live to YouTube, the meetings will be there and they'll be accessible right after the meeting. So anybody can watch it later on or the next day or whenever they want to do it. One of the concerns, maybe not for us, but a lot of people who stream live to YouTube, because it is open to the world, they have people who come in who may want to disrupt them somehow. So you can block certain words. So if someone's in the chat, they can't say bad words, 7 words you're not allowed to say, if any of you guys remember George Carlin. And if somebody is typing a lot and just being obnoxious, there's a way to throttle those participants so they can't overtake the chat. The other thing is if we do it live, we no longer have to upload our Zoom meetings. Like I just got a new batch from Laura a couple of weeks ago. That doesn't include the 119 that I had already committed to uploading. And I have now talked to Raheem. I'm like, somebody else is gonna have to start uploading all these things. But in the meantime, if we start streaming live, we don't have to do that. So some of the drawbacks on that, oh goodness. Are you guys still seeing my picture?
No.
Let's see.
In
I'm
the
gonna
slideshow.
stop the share and then I have to, I'm gonna try to share it again, Laura, sorry.
It's all right. You're still a co-host.
Okay, so yes, I want to share my screen and then I need to, okay. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know where to put you guys. Okay, so just so that I'm talking. All right.
We were on slide 2. Oh,
Yes, I don't know what's happening. Oh my gosh.
It has 2
panic.
slides.
Yeah. Let me just try it again. See, I didn't practice going to slide 2. So up here, I want to share that document.
But
There. I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay. You guys see it, right?
yes,
Right.
Okay. So the difficulty will be the technological learning curve. To coordinate Zoom and then to have it work going through YouTube will be, there's some steps that have to go through. And if Laura is going to continue to host the Zoom meetings, there are going to be extra steps that she would have to take to do it onto YouTube. I'm not sure of the account that we have. I know that for many months, Laura was doing it on her personal Zoom. I know we now have it through Done, so I'm not sure what that is. But if we're going to do that, we would have to probably upgrade our Zoom account, which is about $15 a month, for the technology to take us from Zoom directly into YouTube. There are other ways, but the most direct way would be for us to upgrade. Also, when you are streaming live on YouTube, you have a chat that's open so people can participate, or you can close it. And the problem with closing it is that we wouldn't be able to upload links, or, when we have people, government officials come in and they put in links and things like that, that would be unavailable. And then also, if we do have it open and if we have a meeting that is a lot of participants, and the oil and gas, I guess, is something that sometimes there are a lot of people with that. We may need a moderator to kind of make sure people aren't misbehaving. So I just want to throw the idea out. Is this something that we want to do? I'm going to stop sharing now. And if so, then how would we proceed? Or do you want to proceed, or should I get some more information? Or Paul? Oh, sorry, Dolores.
Paul and then Laura.
Yeah, so I'm curious, is this sort of a step we want to take. That's a temporary step until we go back to having live meetings, like
Well, I
post-COVID.
think if you go to our YouTube page, there are 5 meetings that were streamed live in the conference room. I think it's CD10. So in the past, they did try to stream some meetings live, but then I guess Zoom happened. I mean, COVID happened, and then we went to Zoom.
I mean, because I think it's a good idea. It's just I was kind of curious. The nature, was it temporary or permanent? So.
Thank you, Paul. Laura?
Thank you. Couple of things. We don't need to upgrade the Zoom. We have the ability to live stream. I've sent a month ago, the day after this meeting 1 month ago, all of the admin and logins to Raheem and Gabby, and have not heard anything since, but I gather there's been some other conversations. We cannot do that easily via the city license, because they will not share the license admin information with more than one. And Gibson controls it. So that's why we opted to stay with mine, but it has the ability, I've already shared the admin. So the technology is.
It's not just the admin, it requires an upgrade from Zoom to allow you to do it.
No, my Zoom account allows it to be done. I just don't know how to.
Your personal Zoom account or the one from the city?
The city we can't use because we can't let anyone else into it to set this up. I mean, and
well,
it's a
I would not recommend that we use your personal account to stream. If we can't do it because of the problem with Dunn, then I just don't think we should.
Well, I'm not going to get into that part. I'm just saying technologically we can, but what Raheem had said all along was he needs into the account and he needs to do this, that, or the other. And then I think you are totally correct. Whatever is done, the host still needs to every meeting do it. I turn on the recording, I probably have to turn that on too, but I don't know what to turn on or where to turn it on to. So that's the technology. The question is, truly, should we do it? I mean, on the one hand, it does really relieve us of having to figure out how to upload all those meetings, right? From Zoom.
We would still have to upload the old meetings. But
yeah, I know, but going forward, it relieves us of that responsibility completely. I'm not sure we'd want to have 2 different conversations going on, because people chatting on the YouTube, the governing board members are not going to see that. We're in a meeting.
No, actually they would. Anybody who's on YouTube will see on the sidebar all of the participants and all of the comments coming through.
Anyone who's on YouTube, but our governing board members won't be on YouTube. They will be on the Zoom meeting. They won't, I don't believe they'll see it. Maybe that's a good thing, but I would want the participants to know that no one's seeing it except for maybe a moderator. And who would that be? Because it couldn't be a board member, because they have to be in quorum in our Zoom room. So that's a complication.
Shouldn't this discussion go to communications?
Yes, it should. It should go to the committee, but they have canceled for this month again. So
it certainly can go to communications. I believe communications had a problem in the past. That's why they hold their meetings privately. But you know what? I will let Raheem know that the board is sort of interested. They'd like more information, and that he and Gabby need to come and present. Is that what you want?
No, I think if you're saying give them a direction to continue to hold their meetings privately and just come to a conclusion and present, that's not so good.
I'm talking about.
Wait. One at a time, please. One at a time.
Sorry.
What were you saying, Laura?
Well, they shouldn't be meeting privately. So this kind of discussion should be on an agenda that's public and let people go to that meeting. I do agree with Greg that it's a highly detailed kind of topic that should be handled at communications, but at communications in a public meeting.
Laura.
Laura.
Teresa.
What direction, or do we need any action on this, Dolores?
No, we didn't have action on the agenda. It was just discussion.
Okay.
You just told me it was a briefing.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. So I'm just for my notes. So,
Okay, so.
I'm done.
Maybe.
Greg has his hand up. I don't know
Oh.
if he means to.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry, Greg.
It's camouflage, you know. Um, yeah, my questions are like technical questions, and I just don't think that this is the forum to ask those questions. And so, yes, I would like for it to go to the communication committee. But yeah, I have a lot of technical questions.
Okay, and I just want to state that I think we need to be moving forward and doing what's best for our constituents. We get caught up a lot in, oh, this procedure and that procedure, and I think we missed the big picture. We're supposed to be making it easy, simple, for our constituents to get information from us and to be able to make their government more effective. And we get caught up in a lot of
Details.
you can call it details, or you can call it BS, you can call it a lot of different things, but we spend a lot of time mired in things that are not in the best interest of our constituents.
Right.
That's all I have
But
to say.
but there, okay, I get where you're coming from, Teresa, and there's a lot of questions that are being asked about this, you know, and then the main question is, should we or shouldn't we? And I think the best people to make a recommendation to us would be the communications. And you can ask them to put this on their agenda and then give us a report back, a recommendation.
Okay, I will, Dolores. I'm going to send it back to Raheem, but let me just remind you, for about 16 months, Raheem tried to get Laura not to host the Zoom meetings on her personal account, and she continually put up roadblocks on why it had to be on her Zoom account. And with a little encouragement from me, she was able to finally work through Dunn to get the Dunn account and to get those meetings off of her personal account. And I think he has some frustration working through that. But you're right, the procedure should be that communication explores it, comes up with the solution, and then comes back and discusses it. And then that's what I will do. I will send it back to Raheem.
Okay, and request that he come up with a recommendation at our next executive committee meeting?
Well, that would precede his next communications committee meeting because he can't. Oh, no. His
It could be at some
communication.
time in the
No,
future.
I'm wrong. His communication. No, I'm wrong that I was wrong. We're meeting at executive on the 14th of December. His communications committee meeting is the 16th of December because he canceled this month's.
How about when he has it prepared to please let Dolores know, so then she can then put it on the agenda. So he's not in a rush to try to do it. Whenever he's ready to let you know, Dolores.
Okay, but that takes us into January.
It could be February, it could be March. You know what I mean? So
And Teresa, just part of the communications is, you know, he does need to include me at some point because I think the host, whether it is on the city Zoom with Gibson or my Zoom or new Zoom, it doesn't matter. The host has to push some button in the end. And that's the part he hasn't shared with me because they were trying to figure out what that button is. Because I've already reset the protocols to include the live streaming with a choice for both Facebook and YouTube. So that's all I can say. I'm just awaiting an instruction from him.
Okay, all right. So Teresa, you're going to go to make the request of Raheem to put this on their communications agenda and requesting that they make a recommendation to the executive committee in our January executive committee meeting. You're muted.
I'm sorry about that. So you want me to say January or when they're prepared?
When they're prepared.
No, not when they're prepared, at our January meeting. And then if they can't give it to us in January, then they need to say that.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. What do you guys think?
Sounds good to me.
It's your meeting, so if that's what you'd like, that's what I'm putting it in the minutes now, and then That would be it.
Okay. All right. And we're, what, 3 minutes away from 9 o'clock? What time are we
Yeah.
supposed to end?
9 o'clock if we can.
What's up? What else is up?
The next item on the agenda is board member training. We got one person that has not completed the ethics training, and that's Carlos Couric.
Great.
He's going
And-
to
And the anti-bias training, out of all of the board members, we have 6 that have completed the training. I don't know what the deadline is on this,
go.
though.
The 30th, the 30th,
November 30
30th
or
of the month.
December 1, of the two.
Yeah.
Teresa?
Dolores, Carlos Kirk has been, is he on the verge of being suspended, or where is he now? Because we've had him on here several times without that
Well,
training.
I think that that Dunn will do the suspension. I don't think we do that, but he has, this has been going on for I don't know how long. It's been going on as long as I've been appointed to the board, and I mean, won my seat on the board, and that was in August.
Yes, that's true.
So he has not completed this training since August.
Before then too.
So I don't know what do our bylaws say with regards to this? Do we send him a suspension notification? Or
I
do
don't think we
notify
are
Dunn
able to
or what?
remove for this.
I don't
I
want
don't
to.
know.
I don't want to remove him. Yet.
Well, we did get him to start attending all the meetings,
Right.
but that's still not good enough. He needs to take that training.
Yes.
So we're back on the who's emailed him, who's texted him, what communications has gone to him, and Greg knows the answer, I'm sure.
Well, again, the stuff that I've done is like historical items on this, like months ago. And then, so I think we're beyond, did we reach out to him and encourage him to do it? Because we've done that, and I can pull the records on that. But it is time to say, you haven't completed the training, and if there's no consequence for that, then why the hell do any of us need to do the I'm sorry, why do any of us need to do the training, you know?
Right.
So there needs to be some suspension or something. And if we don't have that in our bylaws, then, or standing rules or something, then it needs to be, because, and if Dunn is not going to automatically do it, I think they only do it for, it seems like, unless it's code of conduct, you know? But, so I guess we need to review what is the consequence for not completing training, then execute that. And then say, and if there isn't, say, write something up to say, you haven't completed this training over the last 3 months or the 6 months or 9 months, and you're going to be suspended.
Okay, I sent him an email. When was it? September. Where did I see that?
Mhm.
September something. And then the second email on October 27th regarding the ethics training.
And I'm gonna look up the text that we sent concerning training. So let me pull up training requirements.
Those were emails, Dolores?
Yes, I can forward them to you if you need them for your records, Teresa.
No, I just want to make a note that you sent 2 letters to him, and then whatever Greg says. But I just wondered, do our bylaws not say
Yeah,
specifically?
let me pull up the section of the bylaws that.
Okay, that was September 30th. I sent him an email, and October 27th, I sent him an email regarding the training.
In October what?
October 27th and September 30th.
Right. I do have my hand up. I think we agreed last month that we were going to create a formal form with a grid that shows each contact and the methodology for every board member who gets contact about any of these training items because of the lack of record keeping on a different board member. So this is an argument as to why.
remember
I
that
believe
conversation.
I sent him an email. I would have to look for it as well. Maybe less formal, but I mean, we just can't have a board member who hasn't taken ethics training, regardless of what the bylaws say. But I just don't know how we execute a removal if our bylaws don't allow a removal for the failure to take other tests. I mean, obviously code of conduct or absenteeism.
Paul has his hand up.
Yeah, point of clarification. My understanding was that if it was a training related gap or absence on the part of the board member, that Dunn had the power to do the suspension, right?
Correct.
So if
That's
that's
what I thought.
true, then why don't we reach out to Dunn and ask them to just do what they're supposed to do in this case, and then we can decide what we want to do thereafter? Or do we not want to do that because then we risk losing quorum? The chance of losing quorum is higher.
No, I think that cannot be our primary concern. I mean, it's all concern, but it just can't be our primary concern.
Agreed.
He can't vote anyway, Paul, because on financial issues, because he hasn't taken
Hasn't
it.
done that. Yeah, okay.
But the question is, at what point? Because really, when he rejoined the board, Dunn has been showing that his training had expired, but in part that was because he had taken his training via the state website, not Cornerstone. But that excuse is no longer good. He was appointed 2 years ago. So you're supposed to take ethics training every 2 years. So at this point, he really, really has to take it. I mean, there's no more excuse.
I said in the October email that if he has taken the training and Dunn has not updated the website, then to let me know. But if he has not taken the training, then he needs to do so as soon as possible. And I have not heard from him. And I asked him if he had taken the training to send me a copy of his certificate for my files. He did not respond.
Okay. So again, I feel, okay, wait a minute. I have an email from Carlos. Okay, I sent him a email about training on July 28th. But it wasn't me. It says you really have to take it, but it wasn't like with a consequence. But just FYI.
For what's in the text, it does state that suspension is for the code of conduct.
Right.
And that for the ethics, it's just that it needs to be taken, but you can't vote on financial stuff. And then way back when, we made a proposed training requirements. And remember we were talking about changing it? From
That's one of the
60
things that held up the standing rules approval. We were being kind of back and forth on that.
Yeah, and so we sought to address that issue then with that because we saw that this was a problem. And then we were proposing that all UNC members that have not completed the expired training within 30 days past the expiration date will be removed from the board. That's what, there were like 6 things that we were proposing to add to our rules, either standing rules or handbook or whatever. But we didn't get past that. This was, again, this was months ago.
Well,
this is like we have to remember what we
yeah. Well, great. Ashley, you and one other then officer did do a motion, but it didn't go anywhere because it was only 2 votes. But what Nancy said was that if we put it in the standing rules at this point, it's a conflict with our bylaws, so it wouldn't be able to be utilized anyway. So it's a circle because I really would like to approve the standing rules with flexibility so that we don't have to go through a year-long process to update the standing rules every time there's a nuance at the city. But yeah, so that was Nancy said we can't, from a lawyer point of view, the person who was writing it, we couldn't do it because it was in conflict with the bylaws. You disagreed, Greg disagreed, and Hugo disagreed. Both of them wanted us to change it.
Excuse me, it's 9:06. Do we need a
Yeah, and
motion?
I'm dying here. So Dolores, let's really create a log on Carlos and really reach out to Kyle at Rosters and Gibson as our NEA and just say, what do we do about a board member who really hasn't taken the ethics training as far as we can see this entire 2-year period? And it is time to he came in again. I think he thinks because he had taken it on the state, it didn't expire. And I don't know when he took it on the state. However, it's 2 years since we appointed him to the vacant seat. So whatever else is true, it's time now to take it. Whatever else was true when he rejoined the board. It's that simple. So
do I need to send him a warning letter that we're going to contact Dunn?
Oh yeah, that might work. Just as long as you have a list of when he was contacted. So Greg and I need to give you our dates because your dates only start when you start it. Okay.
Okay.
So I will do that in the morning or midday because I'm slowly sinking down at this point. So I would like this meeting to
You going home?
conclude.
So we have, what happened to my agenda?
That's training.
Well,
Okay, so we
upcoming
have-
board agenda items, which I can share with a caveat that once again, as you all know, this is the best guess of agenda items at this exact moment in time. There may be something added, there may be something subtracted, and this is not in any order. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
So between 6:30 and 7, so before the meeting is convened at 7, unless something has changed, Kimberly Briggs, who's the outreach field person for LA, for the California Citizens Redistricting Commission, that's the entity that just released draft maps for the state Senate, the state assembly, and the federal congressional districts. She wants to and is available to do a presentation and we can ask questions. The comment period on the legislative redistricting extends till December 15. So the timing is fine on December 2nd. That is a non-quorum, just a presentation that must come to a hard halt at 7 o'clock or as soon as we actually have quorum thereafter. And then the items not in order, although sort of in order, the upfront, the normal, which would be public comments, meeting protocol, discussion, very brief, government officials, CD10 done reports, hopefully very brief. The same training report, only we really do need to know on December 2nd who did or didn't take the anti-bias training because it was due either the day before or 2 days before. And then the next item after all of that would be, I think even maybe before the training report, would be appoint 2 new board members to fill vacant seats. And I think that should happen, even though I have it in a different order. If there's any update regarding the CD10 suspension, I don't think that should be before we appoint our 2 new board members. There are many items for planning and zoning, and they are all on deadline with the exception, but I hate to bump it, of Taylor's mobility and transportation subcommittee mission statement and goals. I mean, obviously we could wait a month, but he's worked hard on it. But we have the Crenshaw Crossing final hearing. We will have them also the night before at planning and zoning. I will encourage board members to go to that meeting so we come prepared to the next night. We have already approved a community impact statement about building a safer Los Angeles, but John wrote it at 4,000 characters and spaces and the max is 2,000. So he's agreed to work it to the right length and we'll just hopefully just pass it again. And I don't know what, if yes or no, what we'll do on SB 9. That's on tomorrow night's agenda. That might just also be canceled. So the updates are the homeless count 2022. We will have the interns proposal we went through tonight. We have the business cards tonight. Your guess is as good as mine on Cal Greenworks, but tentatively on the agenda. Treasurer wants to do a budget brief, 5 minutes. It'd be way up at the top of the agenda. The rest of the treasurer stuff would be near the end, I think, but it doesn't have to be, because we're not doing any budget adjustments, because that $500 for business card is within the budget. So we could do the treasurer at the top this time, because remember, we're trying to give everybody a chance to be first and everyone else a chance to be last every once in a while. And secretary approved the November 4th governing board minutes. And Teresa, do I have this right? We've already approved the special meeting on November 4th, right, of the minutes?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And then you see at the bottom, I already put, hey, standing rules, yes or no? Which would be a very long agenda if we add standing rules, but if we don't add it, just keeps delaying and delaying. So, you know.
It appears to me that it's already a long agenda. Can you scroll
Exactly.
up a little bit?
Yeah, no, it is a very long agenda. That's why I put question. And that's it.
Can you scroll up, please?
Sure. Yeah. Wait, where am I stopping here?
Yeah. No, that's
I mean, clearly we don't know if there is an update regarding MRT. The reason the CIS has to go is that the vote is scheduled in council within a week or two after that at the moment. Again, just like last month, I have no real crystal ball on the SB9 thing. That depends what happens tomorrow. But Crenshaw Crossing is December 15th. So we do have to do that. And is anybody else wanting to add anything to this? Well, aside from you don't want to add anything to it, but is there anything I'm missing?
Does she have everything, Teresa, that we were moving to the board?
Ugh. And here, yes, I'm so sorry. Let's just do this. CAPS, executive committee items moving forward to the board, not listed elsewhere. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Cal Greenworks, and then the interview the candidates.
They're there.
The interns.
Yes, they-
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah, I know. I'm just quickly going through my notes. Training. I believe she does.
Okay. All right, Laura, can you take the screen down?
Yes, and Teresa, I will email this to you.
Email what to me?
Right.
Oh, well, in the last minutes, you actually put the agenda items in your minutes. Do you want to do that every month?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, that's
So
fine.
I'll just email that to you.
Okay, so we have 3 or 4 more things to do. Do we want to continue with this meeting, or are we going to table all the rest of this stuff? What's your pleasure?
My stuff can come out of my report anyway. That's coming up.
Yeah, I don't have a president's report.
Okay, and secretary's report?
I just have 2 minutes, one from our special meeting and one from the October 7th meeting, I think, and Laura corrected one of the items on there, but there's nothing, and then item number 8, I can wait on that too, so it's no big deal, we can wait.
Okay, we're gonna table 8. And what did you say about the treasurer's report?
Well, let me just read the items. Funding focus, Sun Matters. I don't have, Sun Matters NPG needs to be canceled because I don't have the paperwork to move it forward. Because it's been approved at the board and I saved it but it's not submitted because I don't have all the paperwork, and I've been asking her for the right paperwork. And she doesn't seem to be able to get that. So I emailed her again and said, can I have that IRS form? But I've been waiting 2 months to receive it. I think that's long enough.
Is she having problems from IRS of getting it?
I explained to her how to get it. I gave her the form. I told her I would help her. So it's pretty scaffold to get this is what you need. This is how you apply for it. And it's been 2 months and she has not provided the required documentation.
What's the pleasure of the committee? Do we need a motion to go to the board to cancel this this project or what?
May I just ask one quick question, Greg? Do
Sure.
we have on all of our NPGs, do we give them a specific deadline? In other words, is it if you don't have all the paperwork in 45 days, we cancel, or 60 days? I mean,
No,
whatever. Is it
no,
across
because
the board?
we never have that problem. We never have the problem. It's been 2 months waiting for this. So it's a reasonable request to say, this is what
Okay.
this is the form you need. So no, so you're correct. We have never said you had 60 days to get your paperwork in. But once we let the people know what they need, clarify, provided links for them to do it, provided samples for them how to do it, and they haven't done it.
Right.
It's just.
Well, can you just,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Paul has his hand up, so.
I just would like to entertain the motion that we take this particular matter to committee to, rescind the funds and communicate to them that because we haven't received the necessary information, the funds are no longer available and we move on.
Right. My question is, can we give her a deadline of literally, we'll send her an email Friday, November 20th. Did you give her a deadline?
Yes,
And it was?
yesterday.
Okay. So did you say, or we'll cancel it at executive?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's all scaffold. I mean,
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm
I know, that's all, that's fine.
So what was your motion, Paul?
Oh, I have to remember. Okay.
well,
I entertain the motion that we,
Motion to send to board to rescind the funds for Sons Matter.
thank you, Teresa.
Is that what we want to do, Greg?
effectively, yes. Short answer, yes.
Okay, we need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. So we'll move that action to the board.
Right. And I can upload the inventory as I have it, right? Laura, the spreadsheet you sent me?
I'm
Oh.
sorry, what?
That,
I know you're
on my-
asking me to take, I'm so sorry. I'm really not feeling well right this second, but I think I said I was sending you a memo and we're appending
did.
it to our inventory.
You did,
But
but
I got interrupted by another
Okay,
bad reaction to
can,
a COVID shot.
Okay, I can
So
upload.
tomorrow I
that-
hope to feel better.
Okay.
Can we have that on the next meeting, the inventory, so we can get a status on that if we're not going to discuss it this time?
Right, well, we're gonna turn it in and, okay,
We
yes,
did-
exactly. If we've heard something, we'll put it on the agenda if we have a status. If they just accept it, it's part of Greg's report, I think.
Yeah, we looked at it in the last meeting.
Yeah.
But now I'm
Yeah,
just.
no, I looked at it. I just remember there was some,
Yeah, what we
Questions?
decided was Greg will fill out the cover inventory sheet that is provided by city clerk. We will do a memo that also explains that whole detailed Excel spreadsheet and why things are missing. And it'll all be one document appended together and Greg will upload it. And then we're gonna see what happens. Maybe nothing,
That sounds like a good plan.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Great.
I agreed to do that just before, sorry, I'm not feeling well. Just
Okay.
before I'm not feeling well. But I should feel well really soon because the COVID booster shouldn't be taking me out.
Greg, can you have those emails that you sent to Sandra available for the board members at the meeting?
Sure,
Because I'm sure there'll be questions.
of course.
Okay, so everything else is going to be tabled?
Yes, I will
Yes.
table it all.
Okay. So, meeting adjourned?
Shalom,
What?
shalom. No, shalom.
Oh,
Shalom.
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 Namaste.
All
Have a
right.
good evening.
So
Which may or may not be goodbye, but
9:21. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Salam
you.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
oh my
All right.
God, I don't know what any of this.
Good one, good one. Oh yeah, Paul, we need to talk about.
We will. I'll give you a call
Okay, man.
tomorrow.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
Bye.
All right,
Okay,
good night.
bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Be well, Laura.
Oh, I know I'm gonna be because I'm not really sick. I'm just really, sick, but it's the vaccine reaction. It's not that I'm sick. I might be a hypochondriac.
All right. Good night.
Bye.